Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. I'm Erica Yoder, and today I'm doing a review of the Old Country Brazos Generation 2. Alright guys, I know I've been gone for a while, but I've been doing an insane amount of traveling, a bunch of different stuff, a bunch of projects that I'm working on that I can't quite tell you about, but very, very soon I'll be able to tell you about all those. I have one trip left, and then I'll be home, I'll be making content, because for the last few months, I don't think I've spent more than 2 or 3 days at home at any given time. For the entire month of April, I was gone. So making content has been a little tricky, a little tough, but I'm here now. We're going to do this review, and many of you guys might be asking, wait, didn't you come out with your own smoker? Why are you doing a review of the Old Country Pit? Well, the reason is because reviews are one of the things that I do. I want to give you guys honest feedback on the products that are out there on the market. I don't think it's really fair for me to review my own smoker simply because there's no way for me to do it in an unbiased way. And so at the beginning of this, let me tell you what my biases are. The first real offset smoker I got was an Old Country Brazos, and it was something that was affordable to me. I just have loved it for a long time. It is a very sentimental smoker to me, so I'm never going to get rid of it. You know, I have a couple dozen smokers and grills, and that's probably the last one I would part with, simply because it was the way I got into making real wood-fired barbecue, and that's something special for me. But this Generation 2 has a number of different design features, and I got to tell you about a couple of the things that kind of went into this. So a couple years ago, I had talked to Old Country Barbecue Pits about doing maybe a Mad Scientist version of their smoker. And I gave them kind of a playbook where I make a 24-inch diameter, put a longer, taller stack on there, make the stack removable, put casters on it so it rolls better than the wagon wheels, etc., etc. And they sent me kind of a prototype of something that they were working on, and they said, well, we tried to include some of those features, but what they sent me was essentially an Old Country Brazos Generation 1 with an insulated firebox. Was not really thrilled with it. The talks kind of just stalled out. But on this pit, a number of those design features that I suggested have actually shown up. But to clarify, I'm not partnering with Old Country Barbecue Pits. I have no financial interest in this in any way. I don't get paid to promote it. I don't get an affiliate link. I don't get anything. Literally nothing. It actually kind of works against me to promote this pit or to feature it on the channel because, you know, I kind of like to sell my own pits. But I want to give you guys honest feedback. This is something that's significantly cheaper than most of the other actually, I think every other 1/4 inch thick offset on the market. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear about what my relationship is with Old Country Barbecue Pits. I am not an ambassador for them. I'm not promoting any of their stuff via any kind of like paid anything. They did send me this to evaluate, and so I gave them some feedback on it. And now I'm going to do a review for you guys, the potential customer, somebody who might be interested in one of these things. In the Old Country Brazos Generation 1, the stack was big around, but short, so it didn't really have much draw. And so if you tried to use the damper, it kind of, sort of, halfway worked. With this, the damper really works. But the way I like to do these reviews is to give you an overview, and then we start looking at some of the specific details. So the overview of this pit is that it is a 20-inch diameter. It's not 24 inches. And it has an insulated firebox. It has a stack with a damper. It's got a collector on the end. But let's start with how this thing cooks overall. Because they have a baffle that is removable, you can actually adjust the airflow according to what you want. I think they realized that so many people were removing the baffles from the Generation 1 Brazos that they made this a removable baffle. Essentially, they have 2 pieces of metal welded in there where you can place the baffle and it can hold it in place. That's one of the things I had suggested to them is get rid of the baffle, and they were unwilling to do so. But they made it removable, which is, to me, just as good. So if the baffle is in place, it kind of forces air down, and then it comes up in the middle, so the hot spot is directly in the middle of the grate. Not something that I particularly care for. But let me bust out the infrared camera and show you the heat distribution with the baffle removed, which is how I would suggest running this pit. So our neighbors are doing construction on their house, so you might hear some of those sounds. But right here, you guys can see where the hot spot is. You see the firebox is insulated, but this front side of the firebox is not. You can also see that the top rack is significantly hotter than the bottom. And so you have this shadow over here to the left where you have great barbecue weather. You just don't want to put anything right next to the firebox. And this is all without the removable baffle. So from the infrared, you can see there's a hot spot next to the firebox, and then the heat kind of goes up, and you have kind of a heat shadow from here to the stack where you can cook barbecue and you don't risk things burning. The bottom grate is 17 inches deep by 35 inches long, so not a ton of space, but you're also getting a pretty good deal on a 1/4 inch thick offset. It's $1,899 from what I saw online. You can get it at Barbecue Guys, my friends over at the Barbecue HQ, I highly recommend them. You can get it from Academy, I believe. You can get it from all kinds of places. And you can actually even get it at Buc-ee's, I think, because they sell Old Country pits at Buc-ee's. Another reason why Buc-ee's is awesome. They sell real smokers there. But let's start at the Firebox end and move all the way to the stack and talk about the features that come with this pit, and then hopefully that'll help you make a decision whether or not this is the right choice for you. So this has an insulated firebox, which I'm not a fan of for backyard offsets because it makes them too efficient. I actually don't even like insulated fireboxes until you get to a 1,000-gallon pit, and then it's still not quite my favorite, but it's a very good option. So I'm going to show you the fire that's in here right now, and the temperature in the smoker next to the stack is 350 degrees. By the way, if you want a Mad Scientist BBQ thermometer, you can get one of those on the website. My wife designed them. I'm really proud of them. I think they look super cool. But this fire I want to show you right now is a 350 degree cook chamber fire, even though it's very small. So crazy efficient? Yes. Will it burn through green wood? Yes. Is it too efficient for my liking? Also, yes, but that's a problem that you can easily overcome. So let's take a look at this fire, and then we're going to move on to the cook chamber. Actually, no, we're not, because I got to tell you about some other features of the Firebox. The outside is 1/8 inch thick steel. Then I think there's 2 inches of mineral wool insulation, and then 1/4 inch thick steel on the inside. It is very efficient, but there's a difference between how an engineer would design a smoker and how a barbecue pitmaster would design a smoker. Engineers want maximum efficiency. Barbecue pitmasters want best cooking environment. And for me, this is just a little bit too efficient. So, okay, so it's the construction next door. There's always somebody mowing. There's always construction. Been gone for like 2 months, and sure enough, the day I get back, I'm trying to film something, and really, I think it's just a psychological operation. The government doesn't want me to film any more barbecue videos. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, let's take a look at this fire. This is a 350 degree fire right now, and we'll show you how efficient this thing really is. Next, let's talk about the cook chamber. First things first, you have 1, 2, 3 places where you can put a thermometer, which is something I really like. That's something I talked to them about, is having a thermometer at grate level close to the stack, because I think that's the most helpful one. As you can see, that's where I put the thermometer in this case. Also, they don't have a door with flanges. This door, like the whole front of the smoker, lifts off when you open the door. I think that they've done this for a number of reasons, kind of ease of manufacturing, etc., etc. But one of the things that I noticed is that the steel on the barrel here, this kind of 3/4 of a cylinder, is 1/4 inch thick, but this is not quite as thick. So I'm going to get my calipers and I'm going to measure how thick that is. It's something that is good to know. Do I think it really affects the cooking? Not so much, but let's see how thick that is. So as you can see, it's about 190 thousandths thick. So it's not 1/4 inch thick, but it's still pretty thick. It's not some thin metal that is going to warp and wear out super fast. I wouldn't worry about it at all, but I think you guys should know. Then when you talk about the grate, you can probably cook 2, maybe 3 briskets in here. I would probably recommend no more than 2. And the top rack, which they include, I understand why they include it, but to me the top rack isn't really worthwhile, especially with the insulated firebox, because it gets so much hotter. If you're just trying to heat something up there, like you have a little tray of mac and cheese, then I guess that makes sense. But for my purposes, for cooking barbecue, I don't really like to use it. But you still have a 1/4 inch thick offset with a lot of usable space for a main grate. And most people, when they're cooking at home, you're not needing to cook 8 briskets at a time or anything like that. You're usually cooking, you know, for a family or a group of friends, and this has enough space to do that. And one other note is I've used this thing pretty extensively, and for the price, this thing is an absolute killer pit. So you can get great quality food if you are careful about managing the fire. You use wood that's not too dry, you use wood that's green enough to slow the burn process so that you're not nuking everything that's inside the cook chamber, and then it really works to your advantage to have that insulated firebox. Quick note, I need to show you some of the guts of this thing so you know how it works and so you can make a better decision about whether or not this is right for you. First, they get through some of the drawbacks of having an insulated firebox on a smoker this small by making this exchange between the firebox and the cook chamber very small, so you're not dumping in tons of heat all at once. Now, do you still get some of those issues that come with insulated fireboxes? Sure, but does this mitigate a lot of it? Yeah, for sure. And right here, you guys can see the little tabs where you can use the baffle if you want to. This is the baffle that came with it. As you guys might be able to tell, I have not used it very much because I tested it when I first got this thing. Didn't like it, took it out. I'm glad they made that possible feature. And then here we have a tuning plate. So you put the baffle in and the tuning plate and you can get kind of more even heat, but I really don't like it. You get some radiant heat from this metal being super hot. It's up to you. I think that's their preferred way to run this pit, but it's not my preferred way. So just keep that in mind, that my preferred way might not be your preferred way. Both grates are removable, so if you want to get them out and clean them, etc., that's pretty easy to do. And then the hinges on here I don't love, but they're fine. What you're buying is a budget thick offset smoker. You're not going to get all the bells and whistles with this thing, but that's something you should know going into it. When I got the Old Country Brazos, the Gen 1, which isn't as good as this is significantly better. They made some design changes that really help it out. When I got my Gen 1 Brazos, I was over the moon. I was so happy I could burn a real fire. I wasn't cooking on a sheet metal smoker. And if your budget for an offset smoker is around $2,000 or less, this, I think, is probably the ticket for you. Now we have the stack. One of the things that I talked to them at Old Country a couple years ago about doing is adding a collector and putting a taller stack on their pit. And so they've actually done that for this. And so I think the collector works just fine. I think the taller stack makes a huge difference. You have a lot more draw available to you, and you can dial it down with this damper. And I actually like the handle. It stays cool. You're not going to burn yourself. But this allows you to really adjust the airflow as much as you want. So you can put the baffle in, you can take it out. I recommend taking it out. And if you take it out and you put the damper at maybe 50% closed, this is slow, gentle, really nice barbecue weather inside this cook chamber. And they included some handles right here, so it's easy to move around. These handles do get very hot if the smoker is hot, so just keep that in mind. And then when it comes to moving around, let's talk about the wheels. So at the Firebox end, we have the wagon wheels, much like the Generation 1 Brazos, but on this end, rather than having just 2 feet, it's actually got 2 small casters, which makes it easier to move around. You don't have to lift the front end of the smoker to get the thing moved. Now, does it work well on concrete? It works okay. Would it work on grass? Maybe. You probably have to lift this end, and the wagon wheels will allow you to move it. So that's actually one advantage of having the wagon wheels, is you could actually move this thing on grass if you had to without having to get, plywood and just roll it a couple feet at a time. Then we have the grease drain. So this has a grease drain. You can add your own ball valve, but it does not come with a ball valve. I highly recommend getting a ball valve, and then you'll be set so you're not, spilling grease all over, valuable concrete or on your wood patio or anything like that. So with a ball valve and a thermometer, I think with this thing, you're set up to cook some really good barbecue at a fraction of the price of some of its competitors. Though the smoker is small and it is a little bit tricky to run, once you get it dialed in, you can make amazing food on this thing. So what are my overall thoughts? I think the Firebox being insulated is a little bit overkill for a smoker this small, but I think they've made up for it in 2 ways. By making the throat, or the exchange between the Firebox and the cook chamber, fairly small, so you're not dumping in huge amounts of heat, and you're making the baffle removable, so you're not forcing that heat to the middle of the cooking grate and then causing the hot spot to be directly in the center. So I think those 2 things really help. And then having a stack that's big enough to work well, to draw well, and then you can close it down and really get slow, gentle airflow. Now, for me, if I had a budget of $2,000 and couldn't go a penny more, 100% I would get this smoker. So it's $1,900, and for a 1/4 inch thick smoker that you can use to burn a real wood fire and to get real Texas style barbecue, if that's what you're after, I don't think there's a better option on the market at this price point. It punches way above its weight. There are more expensive smokers that I wouldn't trust half as much as this thing, and I think it fits the needs of a lot of backyard cooks. And I think the price point is right. I think the metal thickness is right. I think the performance is right. Now, is this gonna compete with something that costs 2, 3, 4 times as much? No, you're gonna be able to make better food with something that costs, a multiple of this price. But at this price point, nothing competes with it. This is kind of the reigning champ below $2,000. So for you guys, what videos do you want to see me do this summer? That's going to help me out because I want to know kind of what people want to see so I can make content that's helpful to you guys. And then I'll be looking at those comments. I'm going to be trying to reply and get a good sense of what you guys want to see. And I'm excited to be back making videos because one of the things I just love to do is to explore ideas in barbecue and then share it with you guys. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I hope to see you again in a future video, or you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or Patreon at Mad Scientist BBQ. I'll see you guys next time.